Hey, what's going on, everybody? So I thought in today's video, I'd share with you guys 3 fantasy football quarterback sleepers that I think are currently being undervalued in drafts. And so for these 3 guys, the first guy is currently being picked as the 11th quarterback off the board, and I think he has like top 3 to 5 upside. And then for the other 2 guys, are being picked as like the 17th quarterback off the board and the 19th quarterback off the board. And I think for those 2 guys, they have the potential to finish as a quarterback 1, so in the top 12. So in this video, I'm going to take a look at all 3 of these guys and sort of give my opinion on why I sort of believe that they are undervalued at their current draft position. If you guys are new to this channel, welcome. My name is Luke Beller, and I post about fantasy football, a little bit about the Packers as well. But if you're into that kind of thing, feel free to subscribe to the channel down below. If you're anything like me, I prefer to take a quarterback sort of like later in the draft. As lots of people know, there are just so many good quarterbacks that the drop-off at other positions is so much higher, like at the running back position and the wide receiver position. So typically it makes much more sense to, pick a quarterback later, get some value at the other positions, and then sort of attack the quarterback position. And so I think these 3 guys could help you if you're also going to be picking a quarterback later in your draft. And that's typically what I like to do. So if we get to the first guy who's being picked currently is 10th to 11th ADP. This is according to Fantasy Pros. They average like a few different sites ADP, so it's sort of more accurate. And this guy is Carson Wentz. Last season, he finished as a QB8 while having so many injuries at the wide receiver position, and he still finished as a quarterback 8, even though he didn't really have that much support at the wide receiver position. He threw for 4,039 yards with 27 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. And one reason he was able to do that is because he had 2 great tight ends, Zach Ertz and Dallas Goedert, who combined for 1,500 yards and 11 touchdowns. So that was one reason he was able to keep up that great season. But if we sort of look at what the Eagles have done in this offseason, I think there's reason to believe that he could be much better than the QB8 this upcoming season with the weapons they've added. They got like Jalen Reagor in the first round of this NFL draft in this year. And they also drafted another guy, John Hightower and Quez Watkins. I don't know if I said that right. And they also traded for Marquise Goodwin. And last season, Alshon Jeffrey and Deshaun Jackson were injured for a good amount, and so they're going to be coming back. So I think that overall, this offense is going to be very good in this upcoming season, much better than last season. So I think that Carson Wentz should really outperform sort of what he did last season. He's currently being picked around 10th or 11th, and I think that he has top 3 upside, maybe like 3 to 5 upside, if everything can sort of click on this offense. But if you look at some of his past years, in 2018 he was he was the number 1 quarterback before he got hurt in that season. So he can be a top 3 quarterback. And then in the past 3 years, he's had 2 top 8 finishes. And in 2017, he finished 8th despite missing 3 games. And so I think there's just so many different reasons to believe that Carson Wentz has the potential to be one of those top quarterbacks with the addition of all these new weapons on this offense. You also have Myles Sanders, running back, who caught 50 passes for 3 touchdowns last season. And I think he's going to take a big sort of jump this season, and he'll be good fantasy running back as well. But there's just so many reasons to believe that, Carson Wentz could be a great quarterback this year. He's being taken at 10th. He could be top 3. So why not pick him in later rounds of your draft, stack up on running back, stack up on wide receiver, and sort of take this guy? I think that I might, after doing more research on him, I sort of like him a lot. I might be doing that in a lot of my drafts, picking him later after everyone else has picked some quarterbacks. And the thing with him, too, is it's not like he's super risky. Besides, of course, his injury concerns, which he has been injured in the past, but, everyone gets injured. He might get injured. If he does, oh well, stuff like that happens. But I think that he has a high floor as well. I don't think there's, too many questions, which is still why he's being picked as, the 10th or 11th. But I think he could have a great season, so take that into account. Then the next guy we're going to look at is, let's see, who do I want to look at next? Let's look at, Ben Roethlisberger is the next guy on my list, who I think is sort of a sleeper right now. Last season, he only played in 2 games before he injured his elbow, had to get elbow surgery. I think that everyone is just so focused on that. They sort of forgot that this guy, the year before, he threw for 5,129 yards, 34 touchdowns, and 16 interceptions in the 2018 season. And that meant that he finished as a 3rd quarterback in 2018. And of course, he did have Antonio Brown on that offense, and that definitely is a big help. But the Steelers still have lots of great weapons. They have Juju Smith-Schuster. And if we look at Schuster, last season he didn't have a great year. I think that partly is because Antonio Brown wasn't on the offense. And so Schuster didn't really have, that number one guy to sort of draw the attention away from him. And when we look at some of his, some things like according to reception perception, which is done by, I believe it's Matt Harmon at Yahoo. So he demolished zone coverage. He was in the 97th percentile in beating zone coverage. But then he was only 24th percentile against man coverage and 12th percentile in success rates versus press coverage. And so it seems that he's better off playing as like the slot guy and having someone else be outside. And that's good news this upcoming season, because in the past few off seasons, the Steelers have added some other guys who can sort of fill that position. James Washington, Deante Johnson, and Chase Claypool. And one guy who I think will likely be the one to take that position, which will allow Smith-Schuster to sort of perform better in this upcoming season, is Deante Johnson. Last year, he posted a 75% success rate against man coverage, and that is again from reception perception. And that put him in the 88th percentile. And one interesting thing when you look at those stats is only 3 out of 40 players who were above the 85th percentile for that category have yet to record a 1,000-yard season. So people who put up that, who are in that percentile range when it comes to success rate against man coverage, typically, record 1,000-yard seasons. So I think it's very likely that he will break out this season and record a 1,000-yard season, which will allow Smith-Schuster to perform much better in this upcoming season, which will in turn allow Ben Roethlisberger to have a great year. And so while, of course, they don't have Antonio Brown, they still have lots of great weapons. They also have tight end Vance McDonald and Eric Ebron they brought in. And so I think that Ben Roethlisberger has 5,000-yard upside, as we saw 2 seasons ago. The only question is, his injury, and he is like 38 years old now, I believe. So there's a few question marks, and that's why he's being taken so late right now. But considering he's being taken as like the 19th quarterback, like there's no reason you can't pick him in a later round. And, there's a great potential, I think, that he could finish as a quarterback 1, in the top 12 in this 2020 season. And you're getting him, super, super late. So he's just someone you might want to keep an eye out for. Just maybe you want to pick him. Those are some pretty interesting stats. I think that he could be great. So there's that. And then the last guy here, the last sleeper we're going to take a look at today is going to be, drumroll, Joe Burrow. Okay, so maybe you're like, wait, hold up a second. Joe Burrow is a rookie. He probably won't do well. And maybe you're right. He might not do well. But in fantasy, you have to take risks, and maybe you should take a risk on him. I might be, I might not, but not be. We'll see what happens. But anyways, when we look at Joe Burrow, obviously he was an insanely good quarterback last year with LSU. Heisman season, put up crazy, one of the best seasons of all time, and makes sense that he was picked number 1 going to the Bengals. And when we look at the Bengals, they have a pretty solid receiver base. I mean, maybe not the top of the league, but they got some good receivers. AJ Green, remember him? He's pretty good still. He is a little bit older, but he's still good. You got Tyler Boyd, T. Higgins, and then you got Joe Mixon in the backfield, who could be a great running back this season, so that will help him out as well. And one reason that I think that Joe Burrow could be good is because this Bengals team is so bad that they're probably going to be behind in lots of games, which will mean that he'll have to air it out all the time to sort of catch up, which will sort of allow him to throw the ball a ton, which could make up for his, it is his rookie season. Typically, rookies don't really do that well in their first year, so that is sort of a reason to be worried, but I still think that he can make up for it because he's a very talented, very skillful player. People have been comparing him to Andrew Luck. Andrew Luck was a pretty good quarterback before he left the NFL. But I think that Joe Burrow could be great. But here, if we take a look, though, just so you have all the information, when we take a look at rookie quarterbacks their first season, let me list some of these guys off and what rank they finished as. Carson Wentz, first year, 24th. Jared Goff, 37th. Mitch Trubisky, 28th. Excuse me. Deshaun Watson, 26th. Baker Mayfield, 16th. Sam Darnold, 27th. Lamar Jackson, 29th. Josh Allen, 21st. Josh Rosen, 24th. Daniel Jones, 23rd. Jordan Haskins, 35th. Drew Lock, 37th. Dak Prescott. Okay, so those first guys, sorry, I'm just going a little fast there. Those first guys, obviously, most of them finished outside the top 24. And then you have 2 guys who sort of went against the grain. Dak Prescott was 6th, and Kyler Murray was 7th. And an interesting thing looking at all those guys is Dak Prescott and Kyler Murray obviously can move the ball with their feet, which I think sort of helped them in their first season. So while it is less likely for a rookie quarterback to have a great year in his first season, there are these outliers, and I think Joe Burrow will likely be an outlier considering how great he is and how well people think he'll do in the NFL. and he's currently being taken as the 17th quarterback off the board. And I think he does have about, as I said, quarterback one upside. So in the top 12, just like I think Big Ben has quarterback one upside. And because people see him as a rookie, you're not exactly sure what you're going to get from him. He could be a great value. He could put up, great numbers this upcoming season. And so he's just sort of a guy that you might want to look out for. Maybe he's like a second quarterback you want to pick up later in the draft. I don't know. I typically pick one quarterback, and because you can typically stream quarterbacks later in the season too, because each week, they're more predictable, so you can pick up a guy if you don't pick a great quarterback. But anyways, those are the three guys that I think are sleepers, that I think have the potential for greater seasons, much greater value than where they're being drafted at this current time. So I hope you guys got some value from this. If you did, feel free to like it down below and subscribe to the channel, because I post pretty much like 5 times a week right now. So if you want to get some more information, feel free to subscribe. But that's going to be all for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys on the next one.